watching around the world.
Time! 3 on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game!
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Float game for the win! Ayla's gone. Goodbye. Touchdown, Indy. Woo! IU America. They got a football team now.
Pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Oh. Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this New Year's Eve Tuesday. Thank you so much for being with us. Happy New Year's in advance of tonight's festivities when the big ball drops. Hope you've got a great day planned or just a relaxing day planned. It doesn't matter. Welcome aboard. We appreciate you. All followers, no matter where and how you're listening on one of our great affiliates like 97.7 ESPN, The Ref, always the right call down in Evansville in the southwest part of the state. Up in the region on the voice of the region, 1230 AM, 104.7 FM, WJOB. And, of course, in Fort Wayne on Fort Wayne's only sports station, 1380 The Fan. Just keep it locked right there. No reason to change the dial if you're listening on radio. Or YouTubers, just make sure you are subscribed and hit the notifications toggle. Welcome aboard on this New Year's Eve Tuesday. Mike DeCourcy will be joining us. Looking forward to talking to Mike. And as there are a lot of big games ahead. It's beginning today as the bowl games are back at us. The college football playoffs are back at us. Indiana football officially hires its new quarterbacks and co-offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, offensive coordinator. And we'll talk about that. His NFL experience, how that's going to be probably a huge draw. What were your favorite stories of 2024? What were the biggest stories of 2024? We'll try to tackle some of those as well. Last night in the NFL, let's see, I think the Lions are rolling. Man, Detroit used to be the armpit of the NFL from a team standpoint, and they've won, I believe, 12 straight games now. It's a lot of wins in a row. UConn football, not basketball, but UConn football. Their coach is Jim Mora. Of course, you might remember his dad, well, UConn's not in the playoffs. If you were ever to listen to his dad.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
That's Jim Mora Sr. Well, Jim Mora Jr. is hoping that teams will stop tampering with his players. UConn football coach Jim Mora plans to pursue all avenues against teams that tamper with Huskies players, warning such teams to think hard before you tamper with our players. Mora posted on social media Monday, hours before star defensive lineman Bryce Yates re-entered the transfer portal. Yates, a 3-year starter with 29.5 career tackles for loss, initially entered the portal December 13th before withdrawing about a week later and posting a social media graphic that indicated his intention to return for the upcoming season. He's a redshirt junior from San Antonio. He earned defensive MVP honors Saturday in the Wasabi Fenway Bowl. He with a sack and 3 TFLs. in UConn's 27-14 win against North Carolina. UConn beat North Carolina. How did North Carolina get into a bowl game? That's the team that James Madison scored like 1,000 points on. Yates led UConn with 14 tackles for loss in the 2023, 12.5 career sacks, yada, yada. Great stats. But the quote was, a simple note to the schools and coaches that have blatantly broken NCAA football rules by tampering with our players in the last 24 hours. Moore wrote on X Monday. We do know who you are. We will pursue all avenues to hold you accountable. We are excited that we've built a program where coaches have to cheat to beat us, and we will protect that program. Think hard before you tamper with our players. So that's something that I've never even thought of because we had so much going on to talk about involving NIL and the portal and all of that. Tampering. Yeah. Hey, man. We'd love to have you over here. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you what, if you'd come over here, I've got a deal set up for you already right now, $250,000. You're probably not getting anything at UConn. So it's set up $250,000 just to come over here and play next year. That's a simple conversation that's probably being had with many players. That's not supposed to be. That is against the rules. There are actually still rules in college athletics. As crazy as it is to sound. As crazy as it sounds, rather. Looking at the Andy Moore Honda hotline, and Mike Shenanigans says the biggest story for him for 2024 was Indiana football. I think that's going to top a lot of lists. It's kind of hard. Robert's cheering on Michigan. I forget who they're playing. Who are they playing? An SEC team, I think. Yep. We'll talk about some basketball. There's no doubt. I've tried to stay away from it because it's kind of pointless. I think that Pete says lost him on tampering. He thought it was the Wild Wild West again. No rules. Well, there are no rules once that they're in the portal, basically. But until they enter the portal, they're a member of another program. And any player that's not in the portal is a scholarship athlete at a school. You're not allowed to talk to, entice, or any of that. Now, once they enter the portal, you can do so. Let's take a quick break. The great Mike DeCourcy is coming up next. We'll talk about all of that and much more when we return to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after these messages.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at BenDavisChevrolet.com and BenDavisFord.com.
Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off your first order.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com.
Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Marie in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum, Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this New Year's Eve Tuesday, and could not think of a more exciting way than to start it off than with Mr. Excitement, Mike DeCourcy.
Happy New Year, Jim. How are you?
Happy New Year to you, sir. If I was any better, I'd be Mike DeCourcy, but I'm not. How was your Christmas and the family?
Very nice. Very wonderful, with the exception of the fact that the NFL decided they needed to stuff multiple football games, including the Pittsburgh Steelers, onto Christmas Day. Did not help the occasion at all in any way. It was a distraction and then obviously a defeat. But everything else was great.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the CFP, their first weekend, other than the initial Indiana Notre Dame game, which was on a Friday night, the Saturday games all were going up. I don't know if they were all up against NFL games, but I know that there was a lot. There was crossover there, and I know that there's crossover in sports because there's a lot of sports. But when you have these kind of events, it's a little aggravating that they can't find a window to have such a marquee event to where it's not challenged by the biggest dinosaur that there is. I always go back to what was the movie was called Concussion, right? I think with Will Smith.
Yes, they have a whole day of their own. Yes. Why can't they, one of the things that's interesting, Jim, is that they are like ruining that day. I mean, this past Sunday, they took so many games off of Sunday and put them on Saturday and Thursday and Wednesday that Sunday was nothing. It was an empty day. There were almost no games of consequence except for the Vikings and the Packers. I mean, everything else had already been played that mattered, and they're doing it again this weekend. They just yanked the Steelers and Bengals off of Sunday and the Ravens and Browns off of Sunday. They're doing the best they can to own other days and ruin the one they already have.
Well, they're only concerned about the NFL. There's no question that they are just cannibalizing not just the days, but other sports. I mean, I want to watch these, and I will watch the CFP games, but they, of course, if they're not competitive, that doesn't help, I'm sure. But these NFL games are not always competitive, although they more often than not they are. And the thing about the NFL is, boy, depending on who the quarterback is, those games are never over until they're over.
Well, I mean, it's one of the reasons the NFL is the great product, the great league that it is. and that even games involving deficient teams can be exciting. I mean, unfortunately, the Colts found that out this week. No one can find, the Giants couldn't find the formula against anybody else, and they come in against the Colts and are able to play proficiently for one afternoon. It shows that's why the NFL is so popular. And I'm not decrying the NFL at all. I'm just saying that one of the interesting things to me is how they've just sort of assumed that they own Sundays, and so let's spread it around. But they don't. I think it's important that Sunday still be a great day for the NFL, if not the great. It should be the greatest day, and they seem to have gotten away from that being a concern as we've gone down the stretch of this particular season.
Yeah, Caleb wishes the Colts have the stability of the Steelers organization, but doesn't most franchises. I mean, the Steelers.
You'd be surprised at how many Steelers fans don't appreciate that, Jim.
Oh, I'm sure, because it's always greener. Everything is always greener on the other side, especially when you're on the inside looking out. But let me tell you, that is probably the most accurate statement. I'm trying to think of who I would consider someone that's even on par quickly, and in the NFL there's not really anything, and then you go to the NBA.
The Ravens have been pretty close.
They have definitely been good.
Long. Yeah, the Ravens didn't really become the Ravens until they left Cleveland, and I mean that literally.
And that's a oh, daggone it, what do you call it? The new franchise pops up,
expansion.
Yes, they were an expansion team.
Well, they weren't really. The current Browns are the expansion team.
That's right.
They took the Browns to Baltimore, but
how crazy is that the old Cleveland Browns are now being considered?
Exactly.
I'm like, come on.
Exactly. I don't know what happened when they crossed the Ohio State line, but most everything changed. The hiring Ozzie Newsome when he was, I don't remember the exact time, but Ozzie Newsome as general manager changed the Baltimore organization. Maybe the most underrated executive really, I think the most underrated sports executive in my lifetime, Ozzie Newsome. What a phenomenal job he did.
What a phenomenal player.
Oh, he was. We used to call him when I was a kid, Ozzie Awesome, because he was
remember
just fantastic.
The playoff game. I forget who it was against. Bernie Kosar was the quarterback. They're carrying basically these two guys are like carrying Newsome off the field after a playoff game. I forget what game it was, but I think that they won, but I don't remember. But this is the old Browns days, man.
Yes. Yeah, the Ozzie Newsome changed who the Ravens are. So that's a place where you, like I said, not as long a history, probably only 25 years, maybe 30, whereas the Steelers goes back 55 years. And I mean the successful history starting at the merger in 70 when the Steelers started to move forward. But there aren't many that are that successful. And the interesting thing about the loudest Pittsburgh fans is that they want to be like others. Like the 49ers have a few injuries and all of a sudden they can't beat anybody. Well, the Steelers have a few injuries and everybody demands that they win anyway. It's just, the dichotomy there is somewhat maddening from someone who has watched the Steelers close up for a long period of time.
Earlier, Mike, I asked the folks, I said, what's your favorite stories of 2024? What are your biggest stories of 24? Obviously, Indiana football is going to be at the top of a lot of lists, especially if it's for Indiana fans. I'm assuming that would be at top of all of their lists. But there are other stories. What were some of your favorite stories of 2024 and biggest stories of 2024?
I think probably, this may bleed into both categories, but Caitlyn Clark, watching her drive Iowa to the championship game again, a much, I shouldn't say much, a less deep and talented Iowa team than the one that made the final game the year before, but they still got there. and then watching her completely revitalize the Fever and energize the WNBA. I know there were elements of that story that weren't happy because of the controversy that surrounded her. And it wasn't, when I say surrounded her, I mean literally surrounded her. It wasn't any of her making. It was others trying to extrapolate their views onto her, whatever they might have been. But Caitlyn handled that just spectacularly. Bill Bender, our college football writer, who covered the women's Final Four in Cleveland this past year and was there, had a front row seat for that, wrote the piece we did yesterday. We announced our athletes of the year at the Sporting News. The Sporting News male athlete of the year was Shohei Ohtani, and I wrote that essay. And then he wrote about Caitlyn being the female athlete of the year.
How does she? Simone Biles. I'm like, ooh, really?
Well, I when we were discussing it, for me, first of all, my vote went to Sydney McLaughlin, to be honest with you. I voted for her because I thought that she dominated her sport in track and field the way no one else did. She had my vote. Her time in the 400 hurdles that won the gold medal would have qualified her to run in the 400 meter final for with no hurdles. Like, she ran as fast over the hurdles as other women did in the semifinals of what they call the open 400, because there's no hurdles. I mean, and then she went out and she won a gold with the women's 4x400 relay as well. I think if she had tried to pull it off, she might have been able to win both the 400 hurdles and 400 open. She might have. I think it was just a judgment that it would be, you didn't want to lose both because you tried both. So she went out and dominated the women's 400 hurdles. And she had my vote. But for me, when Simone, part of it was situational. Simone was hurt, but the fact that she didn't get the gold in the floor exercise, I thought, how do you give her, I know she came back and everything, but she didn't perform at her peak level. Caitlyn completely revolutionized women's basketball, completely. Her presence in that sport this year made it must watch. I will tell you, I watched every game that I could that she played, and that was nearly every game after a certain point in the season, probably a quarter way into the season. I made sure that I watched them play, because it is such a delight for someone who loves the sport to watch her play.
The petty jealousy that was shown in the WNBA is of epic proportions. It's amazing, to be honest with you, that these women allowed themselves to resort to such immature actions. Does that continue? Do you, as we go forward? Because Caitlyn Clark is responsible for them riding on charter planes now, and just little things like that. Every time they board a plane, they should take their hand and tap the top of the door and walk in. Thank you, Caitlyn. Thank you, Caitlyn. Like Notre Dame hits the play like a champion today,
right.
Or all the other things. Thank you, Caitlyn.
Yep.
I'm just, why the petty jealousy? It has to be because, and I have never said this, but I think it's because those players think that she's getting that attention more so because she is a white player. And I don't ever get into that kind of stuff, but it just has to be, because I don't think that if an African-American player came in and was playing that well, would have gotten that kind of crap. What's her name is never got that kind of stuff from those other players. So
who are you referring to?
Reese,
Angel
Reese.
Yeah. I don't know if that's why it all was, because I pointed out, I wrote a column for Sporting News back in January or early February. So this is before even she gets to the WNBA. and how there were little shots taken at her, or more subtly than happened maybe toward the when she got into the WNBA. But I called out Kim Mulkey of LSU. I called out Gino Auriemma, I believe, and I believe he was involved. I know that Dawn Staley took a very subtle, they weren't coming out and using her name and all that. And Dawn Staley spent a lot of 2024 after that, sort of atoning and like saying, oh, she's the best and all this stuff and how great she is for the game. But she was involved in that a little bit.
Auriemma I was like, really? I'd had so much respect for him because he was always the voice of reason, even though he was living in this ivory tower of winning so much. But man, I was like, dude, I think you missed out on this player?
I think it came down to this is really the core of it, Jim, is that they have been putting on a wonderful competition for 50 years since the AIAW started and Nancy Lieberman was playing, and Ann Donovan and Lucia Harris. I mean, it was phenomenal, and then it continued on through Cheryl Miller and the McGee twins, and all the way up into the Shamika Holtzclaw and all the great Tennessee teams, and then the great UConn teams with Brianna Stewart and all these other great players. And so it's been going on for a long time, and they've been waiting to be embraced, and they've been trying to be embraced. And then finally along comes something that ignites that light. That you don't blow out the light, Jim. When Babe Ruth lit up baseball in the 20s, they didn't say, "Oh, go away, Babe Ruth." Or when Magic and Bird opened the doors to the NBA being embraced at a high level, instead of just for like total basketball geeks like me in the 70s, but now everybody's interested. They didn't, Magic and Bird didn't get rejected. That's what she faced. It was like, hey, we've been doing this all along, and now you're going to watch? Well, yeah, okay. So instead of saying, hey, welcome in, come on, man, it's not just her. She's awesome, but so are so many others. And you're going to find out when you turn on the television to watch her how many others are awesome. They fought it, and they fought it with those coaches that I mentioned, and then Diana Taurasi's comments during the Final Four. Oh, she's going to find out when she gets it.
Reality's coming. Reality's coming. Reality was coming for the league, baby.
She was fourth in MVP voting in her rookie year. That's how good she was. That's how good she is. Everybody found out how good she is. But I think that maybe now that we're past that, people will relax and say, okay, we screwed up. They won't say that out loud, but they'll say it internally. We screwed up. Let's just let this play out, because she and others, Juju Watkins when she gets there, et cetera, are going to take this league to a level that we always dreamed it would be.
Yeah, absolutely. Start earlier, I was also talking about UConn, not exactly a football powerhouse, but they made a bowl game this year, and they actually won. They beat North Carolina. But the biggest story was Jim Mora. I think it's Jim Mora Jr. is what it should say. Came out and said that there are teams tampering with his players, which it's funny that it's UConn, but players come from all over.
Oh, yeah.
And they may have two great players on that entire team, but he said he is going to follow every avenue possible because they know who they are. These people are reaching out and tampering. Now that's like one of the only rules that still remains, it seems like,
right,
that you cannot do that. And if they're, which I know it's going on, and if they have direct proof, they have to do everything they can to drop the hammer on this, because it's one of the only rules that does still remain. And the transfer portal has done a lot of good, but also a lot of bad. And so it doesn't need that tampering. There's with the freewheeling ability to go from team to team, sign, stay, go. this is something that has to be kept intact, in my opinion.
I agree with you, Jim. I like hearing the one thing I never entertained as a reporter is, so and so's out there doing this. Well, okay, so turn them in, or tell me and I'll report on it. No, we can't do that because then then the other coaches would be mad at us and et cetera. Nobody wants to cross that line. Jim Mora is saying he will cross that line. Okay, do it. But the problem that exists in this, it's really simple, okay? There's a high school coach that has two guys. He's got a guy in my program. I'm good old State U. And Jim, you're head coach at good old State Tech. And so I call the high school coach.
It's like a Fansville commercial.
Exactly. And you and I both have a relationship with that guy. Right? Because he's got a player at each school. And all I have to do is say, hey, Johnny is really doing great for us. He's been fantastic. He loves it here. Billy may be not so happy over there at good old State Tech. If he wants a new home, just let him know he's got a home here. That's it. That's all you have to do. And is that tampering? It is literally, but is it relative to the rule with the NCAA? I think you can get away with that. And it's even more so if the person that's in that middle is not an official high school coach, but like a summer coach or a workout guy, or in basketball, an AAU coach. It can be really easy to do that. And so I'm curious to see if Mora really has the goods. He may know that good old State U is actually doing something out there. But he may not know that Joe Jones, the assistant coach at good old State U, is doing that. He may not have the goods on that because it's that you're using that intermediary third party to get your work done.
Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News is with us, and it is New Year's Eve. The Big Ten about to go back into play for the remainder of the year. Indiana has Rutgers coming in on Thursday. We'll talk about that and much more when we return to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after this break. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-701-0838. 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore help you find the home you want today.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at BenDavisChevrolet.com and BenDavisFord.com.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this New Year's Eve Tuesday. Mike DeCourcy with me, Jim Coyle here as always. Appreciate you joining us as well. Mike, I also noticed, speaking of NIL and all that, on the basketball side, 6 former Florida State basketball players have sued Coach Leonard Hamilton this week, all on the alleged that he promised to get them all $250,000 a piece, and then that did not come to fruition. There are text messages in the complaint and all kinds of things. This is a whole different avenue. I mean, it's like, boy, we could just turn page after page of this NIL just because there's no handle on it.
Well, I think that first of all, it is instructive to all athletes who are interested in this particular aspect of the college sports experience. If you're going to make a decision based on an NIL promise, get it in writing. Exactly. I'm not saying that they don't have a case without that. That's for lawyers to decide.
Right.
But with it in writing, it's a lot cleaner. It's a lot easier to prove. And it's just, it's a lot harder to break a contract that's written in ink than it is one that's presented verbally. So that's the first thing. Some of the complaints about NIL are related to this, dealing with agents, dealing with these contracts or lack of contracts. What do you do with the money? And all of those are so easily addressed. You know what you do? You get your athletes in a room and you say, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Do smart things with your money. Here's what a SEP IRA is. Here's what you should do. Give them a little financial literacy. Financial literacy is one of the biggest failings of the American educational system in general. There are very few places that teach it, and in today's society with pensions not really a common thing, everybody needs to be financially literate so that they know what to do with the money that they can make through their 401ks and all that. And if you're giving young people 6 figures or 7 figures as part of their athletic deals, they should have an idea about that. They should know what they should be paying an agent who arranges a deal for them. Professional athletes pay 4% for them on average for their contracts. As a agent commission. There are some athletes out there who are, I saw it on Twitter the other day, they were paying 20 at the college level. That should never be the case. But someone's got to tell young people, if someone wants to come along and charge you 20%, they're not necessarily the right person for you. These are things that can all be covered. These are educational institutions. Help teach your players what the smart decisions are. And if the athlete wants to check out on that and not listen when, during the hour lecture or 45-minute lecture or whatever, if they don't want to listen, then it's their problem. But as I said, in this circumstance, if there's an agreement, then it should have been honored by the coach or the program, wherever, or the collective, wherever that promise was coming from or where it was to be funded. It should be honored. If there wasn't such a promise, then the athletes should have understood that. And again, if you have it in writing, whether you have a promise or not.
Indiana basketball has its own issues. I would say arguably the highest payroll in the Big Ten and one of the biggest in the country, yet they are not on the same page. But it starts for me with you allegedly Trey Galloway was playing blackjack until late into the night or in the early morning the night before a game in the Bahamas. You just had Umar Ballo sat down, not sure if he returns for the next game or not, for another alleged infraction of something similar. But when these guys are making this kind of money, what are you going to do? I mean, this is you need them, but at the same time, it seems like there's just no control anymore, or at least not in Indiana's case. They've got bigger problems than that. And so this is a team that doesn't look like it's together right now.
Yeah, Jim, I think that you have to set aside the money. The money doesn't matter to anyone right now other than the whoever is charged with paying it. It doesn't matter. Just because an athlete makes a lot of money doesn't mean that he or she has no rules to follow on a team. That doesn't divorce one of the responsibilities of being a teammate or a team player or a team member. Goodness gracious, how much money was Tom Brady making? But he still was showing LeBron James. What's he make? $60 million a season now? If he shows up for work, I just don't think that that's an excuse. It's up to the team to enforce the program to enforce their team rules and responsibilities and standards. And if they're not being followed, not being met, then it's up to that team to assure that there are consequences. And I assume, I don't know what the Ballo situation is, but I assume that he is facing some consequence or has faced some consequence for whatever actions that occurred that were outside the boundaries of what the program's coaches wanted. But I think we've seen from the beginning of the year a struggle to find a good formula, a working formula with this group. So you have the inconsistency that you have. Miles Rice playing brilliantly in the game against Nebraska, while his one of his backcourt partners, Kanan Carlisle, can't find the basket. Then Carlisle comes back in the next game and plays really well, but Miles can't get it done. Galloway has been inconsistent. You just don't have anybody other than maybe Malik Renew, who's been fairly steady. I mean, almost everybody is riding the roller coaster as a basketball player, and you're going to have one or two guys in every game that don't play to their very peak. I mean, Steph Curry is not Steph Curry every night. I mean, he's always Steph, but he's not that Steph every night. It's just not the way sports work. Nobody's that great every night. So you've got to have guys who can step forward and fill that gap when Steph is not himself. But if you have a team full of players who are not ever really consistently themselves, then you never know what you're going to get or how you're going to win. I mean, Ohio, if you look at UCLA in the Big Ten now, UCLA's offense is like that. They never know right now who it's going to be. It's got to be somebody or they lose, but they never know who it's going to be night to night. They may know going in, but from the outside, you don't know. Maybe going in, they say, okay, tonight, Eric Daly, you've got the matchup. It's going to work. So we're going to you. They may do that. I haven't asked Mick Cronin whether or not that's how they approach offense. But defensively, they're there every night, and that's why they're in almost every game. That's why they're in the position they are right now, because defensively, it's always working. There again, somebody may have a bad night, but collectively, it's always there, and that's what Indiana hasn't had at either end of the floor is a consistent success rate at either end of the floor. They get it done sometimes. They get it done sometimes. They get it done enough to have beat 3 high major teams, but they also have not gotten it done enough to lose fairly badly against Nebraska, against Louisville. Teams that are good, but not great, not elite. What happens when you start playing the elite? What happens then? I'm very curious. Maybe that brings it out of them, but it hasn't happened yet.
No, not only has it not happened yet, this is a story that is repeating itself. And the biggest problem is this entire roster was handpicked by Mike Woodson. It is the most expensive possible, and it is not working again. And it's the same issues. He talked about at the beginning of the season how they were going to be a high-tempo team. They were going to get out and run. That's not what this team is. It is the same story that we've seen for 4 years now, and it doesn't work in this era of college basketball. This team will not, I've said it already numerous times, they're not going to make the NCAA tournament. Biggest reasons because they don't have any quality wins again, like last year, but the Big Ten is going to be tougher this season than it was last year. You've added Oregon and UCLA, who are both very good teams. UCLA just coming off of a big win over Gonzaga. And it's just, they're not going to make the NCAA tournament. And I don't know how that's possible with a roster like this. And that is just going to leave a gigantic situation for Indiana at the end of this season, in my opinion.
Well, what I'll say is they're not going to make the NCAA tournament playing like this. You can't get the wins that you need in this league to get to March playing like this, playing so inconsistently. I have seen teams that got through November, December in similar disrepair get it together. So I can't write it off, especially not when the talent is there. I mean, you can look at certain teams around college basketball and write them off because they're clearly not talented enough to win in their leagues at the level that would be necessary to win in their leagues. I think of Georgia Tech, for instance. Georgia Tech may win a few games here or there that they can be proud of, and they can continue to try to build a program. But they're not winning at the level because with what they did in non-conference, they'd probably have to win 85% of their games in the ACC to have a sniff of the NCAA tournament. So they're not going to do it. But Indiana, the door is open. It's crowded with teams that are going to try to block their path. But the door is open, and the talent is there to break through that door. But there has to be significant improvement at both ends of the floor in terms of how they execute, in terms of what they execute, in terms of the confidence they take into every game. I was really amazed when I watched Kanan Carlisle struggle in the Nebraska game. Not just with his shot, but with his decision-making, et cetera, and then come back a week later and in some ways save them in a losable Chattanooga game that we had on Big Ten Network. It was losable because Chattanooga is such a terrific shooting team that it was out there. And he comes out and he goes 4 for 9 from the field, and he's making hustle plays and he's doing a good job. They need more consistency. They can't have those 2 huge big swings. And again, as I said, Miles Rice, who was brilliant at just absolutely phenomenal at Nebraska and really tried to keep them in the game. And then he comes out against Chat and he goes 2 for 8 from the field and he commits 2 turnovers and he only has 3 assists. They need more consistency. And I don't know where it comes from. I don't know which player it is. That can do that, because it's hard for Renew to do that when he's playing with a center who is not a floor stretcher. And so it's hard for Renew to do the thing he does best, which is score in the post because there's traffic. Mackenzie Mbako is a real talent, but he doesn't seem to feel comfortable and confident within the offense. And again, maybe that's because he's reduced to being a 3-point based shooter when he could probably put the ball on the floor and get to the rim. But again, there's traffic. The lineup, I remember in the preseason, Mike Woodson saying that they were going to play small more often. And I remember thinking, how are you going to do that? When you've got Ballo and you got Renew, how are you going to play small more often? I didn't get it then, and I'm not seeing it now.
I don't know if they truly understand. This is going to sound crazy. I don't truly understand if they know what they're doing. I honestly do not, because I know that sounds, and I don't mean it to sound as negative as it does, but at some point you just have to look and say, okay, I'm an idiot when it comes to this, but some things are just obvious. And there are too many obvious things that are just not being addressed. It's the same. It's like Groundhog Day over and over. There's been no change. When he was hired, he didn't bring in assistants. He kept Archie Miller's leftovers from a losing regime. The assistants that he has, minus Yasir, I believe, who was brought in, I think, after Dane Fife was cut loose. No. But anyway, he brought in Yasir because, one of the other guys got the boot. But there's no change. There's a staff of guys, consultants, that really, Armand Hill is the director of basketball operations. That's a position that usually goes to an up-and-coming young coach who is working. No, payroll. There's another guy. I have no idea who this guy is. Consultant, payroll. There's another gentleman, former player, consultant, payroll. No college coaching experience in any of this. And that's a huge problem. No college coaching experience at the top, and it does not work. So that's just my thoughts on it.
Well, I think that now Mike has
and I've been very quiet up to this point right now, Mike. Very quiet.
Mike has 3 1/3 years of college coaching experience now. That's not a lot. That's not a little. And so I don't think that in his case, that's the issue now. He's been, he's taken 3 laps around the Big Ten at a time when the Big Ten has been a phenomenal league, in a period when the Big Ten was consistently placing 8 or 9 teams into the NCAA tournament. So I think that he's been there long enough to have a handle on what works and what does not work and how to make it work. And I think that, the question for him is, how do you make it work now when the schedule starts to really pick up? How do you get there? And I, like I said, I'm not ruling anything out because it's there, but you're going to find out very quickly how good they are or how good they're going to be, because they have Rutgers coming in, and Rutgers is the most talented team in the Big Ten, not the best team, but the most talented. Then they have to go to Penn State, which has been very good to this point and ran Purdue out of their gym about 3 weeks ago. Then they have SC at home, which should be a game that they should be successful in, and a game that if they're not, then you have an alarm. And then they have to go to Iowa, which is in Iowa, a team that, again, we know what Iowa is. They're not going to guard you. They're not going to make you sweat on offense, but you're going to have to work your tail off to slow them down. And you're playing in their gym, so it's going to be a hard game. So you'll find out a lot about them over the first couple of weeks of the Big Ten season, and you'll know you'll have a really good idea where the season's going to go. As I said, you can't rule anything out right now. They didn't do enough in non-conference to feel great about their situation, but they didn't blow up their case either. Losing to Nebraska, Gonzaga, and Louisville, 2 of those 3 teams are in my field. So they have beaten some. So they have lost to teams that are fairly good quality. The wins over South Carolina, Providence, and Minnesota are not going to be the ones that get them in the tournament, but they are suggestive of the ability to beat the teams that you will need to beat to get into the tournament. And there is a abundance of opportunity in the Big Ten. I have 11 teams in my first Fox bracket, 11 Big Ten teams in my field. And Indiana isn't one of them, which means they get to play all of them.
Right.
Or have, in Nebraska's case, already played them. So they have 10 teams total and more than 10 games against those 10 teams because I don't know all their double plays, but obviously Purdue's one. So they have at least 11 games against NCAA tournament opponents. And now they're going to have to win a greater percentage of those games to get in than say Oregon would need to, as sitting there on my 1 seed line right now. But it's there, and they've got a lot to fix, but it's fixable, Jim, and it's up to them to do it. And I don't believe in pre-complaining. You know, I'm willing to set out the parameters of what you've done and what you have to do now, but I'm not going to sit here and say that you can't do it because I've seen it done. I've seen teams that we thought, man, that team's going nowhere. All of a sudden, figure it out, get there.
Absolutely. Mike DeCourcy with the Sporting News. Make sure you are giving him a follow and being a subscriber to Sporting News. Follow along. It's free. And catch Mike's content on the Big Ten Network. Appreciate you, sir. Happy New Year.
Thanks, Jim. Next bracket will be out this afternoon. My second. Yeah. So we're now at a twice weekly, every Tuesday and Friday, CBB on Fox, at CBB on Fox. You can find it. And if you missed the Shohei Ohtani article, it's up there now. The one I did on Shohei being the Sporting News Male Athlete of the Year. Had a lot of fun putting that together.
Looking forward to it. Mike DeCourcy, thank you, sir.
Thanks, Jim.
We'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio after the break. Travis Miller from Boiler Upload joins us. We'll talk some more Big Ten basketball right after this message break. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Hoosier Hanks East, located on College Ball Road in front of Kroger in Bloomington, is everything you could want. Great food like their custom pizzas, wings, wraps, unbeatable daily drink specials, live music on Fridays, and Hoosier Hanks East is home to Inside Indiana Football and Inside Indiana Basketball coaches shows hosted by Don Fisher. Be on the lookout for Hoosier Hanks ticket giveaways to Indiana and Colts games on social media. Stop by and meet Hoosier Hank at Hoosier Hanks East on College Ball Road in Bloomington. Hungry for something a little different? Well, head to the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale in Bedford, where oceanic flavors meet southern charm with a Cajun flair, like their loaded voodoo fries, gator bite, or jambalaya, and so much more. The Rusty Gator also has live music each Friday and Saturday night with some of the best local and regional artists around. Visit the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale in Bedford and get your Cajun on. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-701-0838. 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore help you find the home you want today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you on this New Year's Eve Tuesday. Happy New Year. Travis Miller from Boiler Upload joins us. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. I'm ready for this year to be over. It was terrible.
Well, for you in football, yeah, I'm sure Indiana basketball fans have got a few more months to deal with it, unfortunately. Because we just finished up with Mike DeCourcy, and their spring is not going to be a fun one. I can tell you that. But regardless of that, the Big Ten, just as suspected, is going to be a brutal meat grinder to get into. And now all teams are going to be returning to conference play. They have 2 games under their belt, which was played back in December. And now you've got a Michigan State team that will make the NCAA, Michigan, UCLA, Illinois, Iowa, Maryland, Nebraska, Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, maybe, Purdue, Rutgers, and maybe Wisconsin. I don't know, but those teams are going to be formidable. That's 7 or 16 of the teams, or no, not the, so 3 off of 18, 15, and you take your own teams, 13 teams are just going to be absolutely a grinder to get through.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting season here, and kind of Purdue's chances on if they're going to get a 3rd straight Big Ten title rely in the next couple of games because they have a quote-unquote.
I'll bet you all you want on that. That's not happening.
Well, we'll see. But their next 3 games are, again, they're at Minnesota this week. Then they host Northwestern and go to Rutgers. And they probably have to win all 3 of those games if they're going to have a chance. And from what we've seen from Purdue, they're a very, very good team. But they have a weakness. They are not nearly as strong as they have been the last few years. And before Toledo here, they kind of faced adversity for the first time in a few seasons. They had lost 3 of 4. Albeit to some very, very good teams in Penn State, Texas A&M, and Auburn. And kind of what you're seeing right now is Purdue has a great big 3, but if they don't turn the ball over, they're going to be fine. But even against Toledo on Sunday, you kind of saw it. Outside of those 3 of Braden Smith, Lester Lawyer, Trey Kaufman-Renn, everybody else is kind of struggling right now. You're getting a lot of those little things contributions from Caleb First, where he's not scoring a lot, but he's rebounding, he's defending, he's doing all those little things that you need. But he's trying to fill like a role that I think a Mason Gillis had last season, and he's not quite there yet in everything. So
wouldn't they love to have Mason Gillis back on this roster?
Oh, I would. Mason Gillis is personally one of my favorite players that we've ever had.
I'm still shocked that Matt Painter did not more wisely construct his roster. I mean, sending an experienced, productive guy packing. I still the other guy, I get it, but Mason Gillis was a part of that. And when you lose the piece that they lost, which was their centerpiece, things were going to be rough. And so not only did they lose Zach Edey, who was Zach Edey, they also lost Mason Gillis. And that was just a dumb move because that one did not have to happen.
I think it was more of a calculated risk with him. And you had some guys that kind of played the same minutes as him with First, with Kaufman-Renn. Where are you going to put him on the floor with those guys? One of them is going to have to move down to the 5. And I think Matt Painter thought he could roll the dice there. I think he probably thought, hey, I've got something here with Raleigh Burgess and especially with Daniel Jacobson. And when Daniel Jacobson gets hurt 2nd game of the season, lost for the year, you lose that gamble. I honestly would love to see this Purdue team right now with Jacobson, just because in what limited action we saw that he had the instincts and kind of just the little things that Edey had and flashed early in his career. Was he going to replace Zach Edey immediately? Absolutely not. Nobody is going to do that. But you started to see the things that Edey did as a freshman. You were seeing those in Jacobson in those games. And so I think if Purdue has him right now, they're probably doing a little bit better, but the biggest issue has been turning over the ball. If they turn the ball over too much, they're going to lose. They did that against Auburn. They did that against Penn State. They did that against Marquette. And if you pressure those ball handlers at the top of the key, that's going to cause Purdue problems. And you can't let them get set up into that half court. So as long as they don't turn the ball over, they'll be great. And, if anybody else in the country would love to have the three that they have with Smith, Lawyer, and Kaufman-Renn. So I feel like if this is the worst stretch of basketball that they're going to play this season, they're going to be just fine in the long run. But when it comes down to the Big Ten, it's just you got to get through each game individually. And, there's probably 5, 6, 7 teams. Pick them out of a hat right now. Who's going to win this thing? And you might have a multi-team tie at the top. It wouldn't shock me to see 2, 3, 4 teams tied at 15-5 or even 14-6 to win the conference. So it'll be fun to watch, honestly. And then, like I said, Purdue's next stretch, they've got 3 or 4 games here that they should be favored in before they go out to Oregon, because I think they're also at Washington before they play Oregon. But if they can get through those 3 or 4 games, they can at least be right there before playing the Ducks.
If I had to pick if someone asked me to pick a champion today, which that's a guess, first of all, because there are too many good teams and there's just too many tough games. But if I had to pick one today, I would go with UCLA. I like Mick Cronin's a good coach. He has already had success. They, coming off of not being successful, now they're successful again. Oregon is very good, but UCLA has already beaten Oregon at Oregon. They just beat Gonzaga. UCLA is going to be the team, in my opinion, that the rest of the Big Ten has to look out for as far as winning it. That doesn't mean that Michigan's not good, going to be tough, Illinois, Iowa, Purdue, Maryland, but UCLA is my pick right now before we really get going to win the Big Ten this season.
Yeah, and I think the trickiest thing with UCLA and Oregon is how are they going to handle all the travel? Just because
travel didn't mean jack anymore, man. They get on a plane and they fly.
We'll see, but it's time zones. This is the first year we're seeing this with a with a 4 time zone Big Ten. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do that, especially when a lot of the East teams, quote unquote East teams, can pair those West Coast trips together, because I know Purdue is doing Washington and Oregon on the same trip, and then they don't go to USC and UCLA. So other than that, it's just going to be status quo for their travel. Whereas, all 4 West Coast teams, they got to come east a lot. So it'll be interesting to see how they do that. But I think if you're going to pick teams that will challenge for the conference title, I like Illinois, I like Michigan State, I like UCLA and Oregon. And then Purdue and Michigan. I think those 6, some combination of those 6 will win the conference.
You mean you don't think Indiana's going to win the Big Ten?
Well,
I'm kidding, dude. That was a total joke.
When I was listening to you and Mike, it was clear that you're in year 3 of the typical IU coaching cycle. So,
yes,
we've seen this. We've seen this every coach. And it's just year 3, and I'll tell you what's going to happen is Woodson will have a mediocre year, might make the tournament. He'll get, quote unquote, 1 more year. And then next year, when they don't win the Big Ten or make a Final Four, he'll be fired. That's how this goes.
Nope.
Yeah, well,
that's going to be expedited. Well,
I guarantee it.
We shall see, my friends. Appreciate you, Travis Miller from Boiler Upload. Keeping up.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate you having me.
Big Ten, brother. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well.
Travis Miller, we've got more coming up. Rick Bozich joins us next here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio's Tuesday, New Year's Eve. And we'll be back after these messages from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revestco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com.
Hoosier Hanks East, located on College Ball Road in front of Kroger in Bloomington, is everything you could want. Great food like their custom pizzas, wings, wraps, unbeatable daily drink specials, live music on Fridays, and Hoosier Hanks East is home to Inside Indiana Football and Inside Indiana Basketball coaches shows hosted by Don Fisher. Be on the lookout for Hoosier Hanks ticket giveaways to Indiana and Colts games on social media. Stop by and meet Hoosier Hank at Hoosier Hanks East on College Ball Road in Bloomington. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Maria in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Maria in Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this New Year's Eve Tuesday, joined by Rick Bozich from WDRB.com at the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios. Happy New Year's Eve, sir.
Happy New Year's Eve to you, Jim. Full disclosure, my plumber's going to be here in about 7 minutes, so.
Beautiful. Don't worry, we got plenty to cover. You know what? I have some Mike Woodson to play that will perfectly cover that up. But Indiana basketball is a point of contention right now amongst fans. I've been pretty quiet about it because there's no point in beating a dead horse that I think is personally, I think it's a lame duck situation, but it's not completely, because you've got the Big Ten season, and I allow for that you know, there's the opportunity is there. I don't think the opportunity can be seized, much less will be seized, because we've seen what we're going to see, unless there's some kind of miraculous change in everything, in coaching style, in playing, in production, in success. This is the wrong year to be a team that's trying to fight out of the middle, and Indiana is trying to fight from the bottom up.
Yeah, I mean, I just looked at Lenardi this morning. He's got 11 Big Ten teams in the tournament. Indiana isn't one of them. They're not even listed.
Mike DeCourcy.
They're not listed among the next four out or the last four out. Louisville is. You know, and I think four of the coaches who got their teams in the tournament have been on the job less than Mike Woodson, including two first-year guys in Diebler and Dusty May. And I heard what the Purdue guy said before about, you know, the cycle of IU in the third year. First of all, it's the fourth year, not the third year.
Yep.
And secondly, they'll be the second straight year they haven't made the tournament. Yep. And you look at the recruiting, it's gone south. It's not like IU people are just looking for reasons to be unhappy with the coach. There are legitimate reasons to be unhappy with the coach, getting blown out in a lot of their marquee games, not being competitive. When you watch them play, they don't really seem to be engaged on defense. They still make a lot of silly fouls. You got a player who didn't play on Sunday for reasons that everybody is speculating had nothing to do with basketball, and the coach wouldn't answer the question about why it was. And you have the contrast of the football team with a coach who came in a much more difficult situation and changed many, many years of culture. And Purdue fired a coach, by the way, after the second year. So we've seen that from Purdue before. It's just not going to work. And I think most people who follow IU basketball closely have already made their decision that Mike Woodson is not the guy. And that's the way it's going to be.
There's no question in that. And I think that the only thing that's been consistent is the inconsistency with Indiana basketball. They have lots of consistency. They can't shoot the ball. They just do not seem to play well together. And there was a constant excuse of, these guys are new, and that stop. How many you just listed a bunch of groups that have new coaches.
Louisville and Kentucky have entirely new teams. Every player is new.
Yeah, Mark Pope is doing an unbelievable job at Kentucky.
Yeah, that's not an excuse. That's an excuse. It's not a reason. And even the question that Jeff Rabjohns asked at the press conference on Sunday about how you feel like you need to get some marquee wins, and he kind of blew that off like every game's the same. Well, no, every game isn't the same. And you're going to have to beat some teams, get some quad one wins. You don't have any really quality wins on this team. And when you ask that question, the way he answered that question, he was either being condescending and dismissive, or he was showing that he doesn't really understand the way it works. It isn't the NBA. Every game isn't the same. In college basketball, you have to win games against better teams. And I think most people that follow IU basketball understand that. And it just gives off the attitude of condescension or arrogance that's what really has turned a lot of people off of the arrogant attitude of a coach who hasn't done anything.
He seems to me he is completely unaware of his surroundings, of the situations, of the situation at hand. It's like a complete and total ignorance, or just totally unaware and not capable of being aware. But it's horrible. It's really bad to the point, and this is going to sound not the way I'd like for to, but I think that you could do a better job coaching. I think that Oprah could do a better job coaching. I think. And
I'm not going to say that. I'd say there's guys on the staff that could do a better job coaching, that would do it with more urgency and more attention to detail. And get these guys, if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, then you're going to sit. And, I'm sure you've heard about it. You were at the game. I saw the game. To have guys on the bench laughing in the middle of a game where they're winning by 2 or 3 points against Winthrop, especially a guy who was suspended for a night, that's a bad look. Of guys who aren't taking this seriously.
He's getting his check. He's going to get paid.
He's getting his check. But there are people that have followed and watched Indiana basketball for years and years and years, and watched guys who are really invested in the program, and they didn't act that way. And for them to see that, that's just another obstacle for Mike Woodson to overcome.
And there are people that are writing these checks. I would imagine that they're seeing this as well.
You would think so.
That's not what they wrote these checks for.
I wouldn't think so.
NIL and the portal were the perfect recipe for an Indiana program that has been on hard times for quite a while to leap back into the status that they used to carry. I mean, leap. And they have just been slapped backwards. It's like, it's unbelievable to me when you have the ability and the resources that an Indiana has. They've undoubtedly have the highest payroll in the Big Ten, and they look like a band of misfits.
I mean, which thing do you think is more likely to happen? They win the Big Ten tournament, or they make it to the Final Four of the Big Ten tournament, or they miss the Big Ten tournament. I'd say miss the Big Ten tournament is more likely to happen than to finish in the top 4 of the Big Ten tournament. Wouldn't you?
More likely. I don't think that either of those is going to happen, only because You have USC, Minnesota, and Washington in the league. That's the only thing that will keep Indiana from missing the Big Ten tournament. They will play a first-round game as a lower seed, but that's the only thing that will keep them in the Big Ten tournament is USC, Minnesota, and Washington. Maybe.
Yeah, it's maybe. And also contrast it. Look at the women's team. Sydney Parrish missed significant time with a leg injury. Lene Beaumont's been out for the year. They just lost Mackenzie Holmes after last year, and the Sarah Scalia, and they had some hard times. They had an embarrassing loss to Butler, and what have they done? They've come back and they've gone 10-3, and they're on the fringe of the top 30 in some of the computer rankings. And they're going to go in the Big Ten where it's going to be harder, but they beat a decent Wisconsin team in their Big Ten opener. And when you watch them play, you don't come away from it saying, what are they doing out there?
Indiana with a game Thursday to open the new year with
Rutgers, which won big last night.
Mike DeCourcy, and he calls them the most talented team in the Big Ten, not necessarily the best team, but the most talented, and they do. Man, you've got Ace and you've got Junior, Ron Harper Jr. Those are two of the best freshmen in the country. Man, that's an important game for Indiana. If they lose that game, that's just another step into the grave because they already have one road loss. Their only road game they've played. And if you get a home loss, every home loss you have to make up for on the road. And
right. Dylan Harper had his first triple-double as a college player last night, and they won a game. Ace Bailey you're right, he's a first-round NBA draft, but Rutgers has tremendous talent. And Steve Peichel has come in to Assembly Hall and won many times. And then they play Penn State, which I'm pretty sure beat IU twice last year, Sunday in the Palestra. And Penn State is a team in the NCAA tournament right now, according to Joe Lunardi. So if you want to get yourself into consideration, you need to win that game because that would be a loss that would hurt them. It'd be a win that would help you. So we'll find out a lot about this team this week with the Thursday, Sunday games. Those are two games. If they're going to be an upper half of the Big Ten team, they got to win both these games because one's a home game and the other one's technically a neutral site game, even though there'll be more Penn State fans, but it's not like playing them on their campus. So we'll see what they got. I got to go. My plumber's here.
All right, brother. Well,
all right.
Appreciate you. Rick Bozich joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Enjoy the pipe digging and Happy New Year.
All right. Thanks, Jim.
You betcha. Rick Bozich from WDRB.com joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. And Indiana basketball, man, I've pretty much stayed off of it this year. So far, I'm not going to beat a dead horse for the next 3 months. And that's kind of how I see it as, hey, you know what? They have their opportunity. But it doesn't, I don't think that they're going to do anything with it. I think that they're going to finish in the lower portion of the Big Ten without question. They have the chance to change that. It's up to them. They have the talent. They have the players. I just don't think that they have the formula. I don't think that the style of play is conducive to today's college game. I don't think it's conducive to much of anything. There's no winning. There's no leadership, but there's no leadership at the top. There's no leadership at the top. It's no leadership trickles down, a lack of. So when there's a lack of leadership above, the players take their cue from that. And it's not going to change, unfortunately. Speaking of, let's see, Mike Woodson, here's a couple of comments talking about whether or not missing shots, as Indiana has become prolific at, is that something that's contagious? And then also, I believe there's another question coming after that as well. Here's Mike Woodson.
I don't know. You know, it's shooting is a funny thing, man. You know, they were all good looks, so I can't sit here and complain that they were bad shots. They just got to keep working. And eventually they'll fall. That's how I think as a coach. The threes and the free throws, because I thought the free throws bit us in the butt tonight. But the positive behind tonight's game is that when they cut the lead to 1, we didn't fold. We made the plays that we had to make. We went on a 7-0 run, and those are the things that I look at.
Mike, Miles led with 18 points today. What's kind of the key to get him going and have these performances a little bit more consistent throughout the season?
Well, we opened the floor up a little bit tonight. I'm trying to get a mixture of posting the ball some and playing open court with the players that we do have, and that's why I think the 23s came in and the looks that we had were really good. We just gotta mentally focus and make them. That would make life a lot better for me.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off of your first order. Hungry for something a little different? Well, head to the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale in Bedford, where oceanic flavors meet southern charm with a Cajun flair, like their loaded voodoo fries, gator bites, or jambalaya, and so much more. The Rusty Gator also has live music each Friday and Saturday night with some of the best local and regional artists around. Visit the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale in Bedford and get your Cajun on. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you on this Tuesday. Happy New Year's Eve. Glad to have you along for the ride. Plans tonight, if you do, be safe, be careful. You know, it's rookie night. It's rookie night, so I like to just hang, but I definitely will not be venturing far. Lots of comments on the Andy Moore Honda hotline, and it's all about Indiana basketball, but there's no point in beating on that.
What are you looking forward to in the new year from a sports standpoint? College football will finish up as the playoffs are coming up. The college football playoffs as the schedule today. This is not the CFP, by the way, but today, right now, Michigan, Alabama, a Big Ten SEC tussle. Now, Michigan 7-5 on the season, Alabama 9-3. Obviously, Alabama's a 16.5-point favorite in this game. That's after they scored 3 points against Oklahoma. That's going to be very interesting. This is an opportunity for Michigan to really put a cherry on their season. They ended it by beating Ohio State, which was obviously a gigantic win for the Wolverines. If they can beat Alabama back-to-back, that actually, it goes back to Indiana as well as the Big Ten SEC showdown. Another Big Ten SEC showdown today. Illinois and South Carolina, 2 9-3 teams that were kind of similar. This is going to be very interesting. Illinois, I don't know. That's a lot of people were talking about South Carolina. They should have belonged. They belonged in the CFP. There is nothing I would love to see more. Sorry, Caitlyn. Nothing I would love to see more than for Alabama and South Carolina to both go down today. Then you have another Big Ten team, Washington and Louisville going at it. Washington at the Mendoza line of 6-6, making a bowl game against Louisville. That would also be lovely. Let's see. I believe tonight you have Penn State and Boise State, an 11.5-point favorite. Penn State is. But this is over a team that had an automatic bye. Yeah, we've already beat that thing to death. Of course, we know that that's not right. Then, no, is that tomorrow or is this today? Texas and Arizona State. I assume that's today. No, it's Wednesday. So, Oregon and Ohio State also on Wednesday, and Notre Dame, Georgia. Of course, Indiana fans would probably love to see Notre Dame beat Georgia. Again, the team that Indiana lost to, you'd like to see Ohio State beat Oregon, maybe. I think Ohio State's a better team, but Oregon has the better offense, and they're rolling right now. Dylan Gabriel has just had a tremendous year. Texas should have little trouble with Arizona State, although Cam Scatterboo will be, I think they can keep him in. What's it? Texas is a 13-point favorite. All the complaints about those first-round games, but yet, where's the complaining about Texas, number 5 Texas, being a 13-point favorite over number 4 Arizona State? Where's the outcry for that? Boise State is number 3, but number 6 Penn State is an 11.5-point favorite. Where's the outcry for that? Nuts. It's whatever's convenient for people to complain about. But I'm looking forward to it. I am looking forward to that. And Jeremiah Smith for Ohio State served notice Monday to Oregon's defense if it chooses to play single coverage on him or any of the Ohio State receivers. He said, I'm just laughing in my head, throwing some shade out early. Let's see. Who distributed the amount of those checks to begin with? Value, I think people are still talking about the, yep. Robert says, are you buying IU football tickets? Is that what you, I'm not saying. I'm not sure. Oh, goodness. Anyway, I'm looking forward to watching the bowl games today. These are some good old-fashioned ones. Alabama, Michigan. I hope it is as good a game as it looks to possibly be. I don't. Alabama needs that win, though. Caitlyn DeBoer desperately needs that win. They did not make the CFP, and this is his first season in Tuscaloosa, and the Tide fans are not accustomed to that. But it would sure be nice to see them lose to a 7-5 Big Ten team. Who wouldn't love that? Scatterboo! Speaking of Scatterboo! Man, what a name. There's nobody out there that can stop me. Cam Scatterboo said during Monday's media availability. Sam Levitt, the quarterback, meanwhile, stood behind comments he made that he is going to prove he is the better quarterback in Wednesday's game. Yes! Got some shade coming out. I love it. Now, wouldn't that be wild to see one of these two teams upset someone? Of course, it would be best if it was Arizona State knocking off the SEC champ. Wouldn't that be something? What would the SEC do? What will the SEC do if their run in this CFP is abysmal? I'm not saying that it's going to be, but boy, that would kind of really put a gag in the mouth of Greg Sankey, but I'm sure he'd have something to come back up. Without question. Indiana seems to have filled in its roster with some great grabs. Quinn Ewers, will he be the QB for Texas? That's going to be interesting to see. Let's see. Today is the 31st. Last day of 2024. And there are Baylor and LSU in the NRG Stadium down in Houston. My daughter's in Houston right now. South Carolina, Illinois, I mentioned. That's the Camping World Stadium in Orlando. The Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. The Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl, Louisville and Washington. And Alabama, Michigan are playing in the ReliaQuest Bowl. That's in Tampa, Raymond James Stadium. I guess that used to be the Outback Bowl. It's hard to keep them lined up. Wednesday, of course, you've got the CFP games. And then Thursday, back to more bowl games. Duke and Ole Miss in the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl. And then bowl games all week. Even Minnesota made a bowl game. They'll take on Virginia Tech, North Texas versus Texas State, and then the Bahamas Bowl. The Bahamas Bowl, while it's a small one, boy, who would hate getting to play in that? Buffalo and Liberty going at it. What will it be like for Heisman finalist Mr. Shanty for Boise State? It's going to be interesting to see Scatterboo and the rest rise up to see what they're like against these defenses, because obviously a big focus is going to be placed on both of those guys. both are carrying a huge chip. One is not happy that he didn't win the Heisman. The other one was not happy that he didn't get invited to be a Heisman finalist. And to be honest with you, I think that did Scatterboo, did he do more than Shedeur Sanders? Shedeur Sanders had an incredible year, without question, but he wasn't a finalist. So, and you only had, I mean, how you got to beat out Dylan Gabriel? That's not going to happen. You're going to beat out Travis Hunter? No, that's not going to happen. So I think all those came out to be the way they were supposed to be. What are the plans for New Year's Eve, people? Russell said he saw a plumber on Main Street, Fort Wayne, Indiana, the biggest and most world-class city on earth. Well, can't complain, or I can't dispute that. I wouldn't want to. I love to find folks in Fort Wayne. Oh, yes, the Hawaiian Bowl. Never a bad one. Any bowl game that is in South Florida or the Bahamas or Hawaii or Southern California. How many bowls are there now? That's a good question. You'll have to Google that. I don't know, because I know that it changed, or it's changing, but the bowl games are still a part of the CFP, as each round of these games is a former bowl game. For instance, Texas and Arizona tomorrow at 1, playing in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl in Atlanta. Ohio State and Oregon at 5 p.m. tomorrow are playing in the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. Well, they call it, they're saying it's, I guess it is still the Rose Bowl, the game itself. Then you have the All-State Sugar Bowl. My question is, 2 years from now, what are they going to do with these high-level, long-time established bowl games? I don't see them going away per se. And you look at Pasadena, that has been like 100-year thing. The whole city, the parade, all of that stuff. Well, that's the number that I thought, rather, and that hasn't changed. It's stayed about the same, although it's grown from a few years ago. But a lot of these were just created for communities, as community moneymakers, charity moneymakers. A lot of the schools don't make money. They just cover their expenses in these things. James Madison beat Western Kentucky in the Boca Raton Bowl. That's in Miami. Who the heck's going to hate playing in that? Art of Sport LA Bowl. LA, who's going to hate playing in that? And the New Orleans Bowl, of course, that's in New Orleans. Who's going to hate playing in that? Now, the bowl games that I never understood was like the one in Detroit. Does that still happen? It's like that was like the worst. That's what kind of a reward was that, to go up to a city that was frigid in January or late December, whenever that game takes place, colder than heck. There's just not much you can do fun in a place like that. But Ed says he's surprised that Indianapolis doesn't host a bowl game. Well, a bowl game takes all year long, number one. Number two, Indianapolis is, again, one of those cities that, even though they have the Lucas Oil Stadium, when you think of bowl games, at least what I do, I think of warm weather, a reward. And I don't know that playing in Indianapolis in January is that big of a reward. I have tried to resist all the comments about Steve Alford on here, and I know what that's in regard to talking about if there is a change at the end of the season, which I personally think that there will be. Anybody that says Steve Alford, and I don't mean any offense, but there's a reason he coaches at a mid-major. Super great guy, but there's a reason he coaches at a mid-major. So please stop with just because somebody went to IU, just because someone played at IU, just because someone coached under Bob Knight, obviously that does not matter. What about all the coaches that didn't, that are successful? Now, there is one that I have a different opinion on, but I've already made that known. But we're 3 months away from anything, and like I said, you can't bury him before. Well, I don't know that it's underrated. JMU loses Signetti and players, but still, oh yeah, I do agree with David. Absolutely. How about the job that JMU did? Not only did they win a bowl game, they beat the crap out of North Carolina this year. They put 77 points on North Carolina this season. How crazy was that? I mean, yeah, David, that's a great thank you. That is perfect, because that is most assuredly, possibly, the most underrated story. It does not exceed what Kirk Signetti did at Indiana, but it also shows that he left JMU in a lot better shape than what he found it. And they were able to add a few pieces to that and remain successful, but look at all they lost. Look at the great players that came from JMU to Indiana, Aiden Fisher, all those guys, and still maintained success. Let's see. Did they have a new coach this year? Did they lose all of their top players? And they had to replace them. And yet they still were successful. In football, no less. Things that make you go, yeah, it is what it is. And you guys are just going to have to endure. If you're an Indiana basketball fan, you're just going to have to endure it. There's no point in getting all bent out of shape and calling this out or that out. It's not going to change. And so just let it play. I saw someone mention that something I agree with. George McGinnis would have, now that's not it. George, I do believe George McGinnis is the greatest Indiana basketball player of all time, without question. Man, if he had been at Indiana for 4 years, I think he would have. Boy, can you imagine? Indiana would have had him for 4 years, and then you follow that up with the teams they had in those early 70s, and you add Larry Bird to that. Whoo, good Lord, we're talking some craziness of talent, a wealth of talent. What are some, well, it's not the era, it's just the tide to it, but I agree that you can't make decisions based on eras and all of that. You have to look at today's environment, today's athletics model, what's going to happen with all that goes on with I'm still curious as to what's going to happen with the NIL for Indiana, since HFG is going to cease operations. But just curious things that make you go home. What are some of your New Year's Eve resolutions? I don't make resolutions. I think that's dumb. Well, I mean, I guess it's not dumb if you can make them and adhere to them, but it's something you should always do, I guess, if it's something that makes you better, makes you feel better. Tomorrow is a great day for rest and relaxation and college football. The great thing is it's not going to get stepped on by the NFL. Should the CFP move their games? We've already talked about now how it needs to be expedited with, play sooner. I think the conference championships games eventually go away. I don't know how soon that'll happen, but it's almost pointless now. If you have 18 teams in a conference, you're not coming close. You're playing 9 conference games. You're not coming close to playing everyone, not even close. And with no divisions in a gigantic conference, again, try to read a comment there. You guys are on different pages than I am. You're all still beating a dead horse from 30 minutes ago. Yep, you just got to take it, man. How was 2024 from a sports? Look, if you're an Indiana fan, you had a great year. You had the greatest college football season in Indiana football history. In 125, 26 years, whatever it's been, 130, it is the best year ever. You got the best ride that you've ever had, and college football is just fun. Think about how much fun that it was for all those people that got to tailgate before those games. The only thing I'd like to see a little more for Indiana is maybe a few less noon games, but I don't know how much that changes. The Big Ten and Fox and all of that, they really like to lock those noon games in. Indiana has a few more marquee games next year with Iowa, Oregon, Penn State on the schedule. That will be interesting. I think they have to win. They definitely have to win one of those games to be in the position they were in this year. And I think if they can go 10-2, they can make it back to the CFP. It's going to be interesting to see the difference next year. I think they could be even better next season. I think that Curt Cignetti and staff will learn a lot from this season, will learn a lot from the games that they played, the 2 that they lost, dealing with those environments, but also beefing up the trenches. It's basically where Indiana was beaten. Indiana's going to have to start adding a couple of NFL types, whether that's at quarterback, whether that's at wide receiver, whether that's on the lines, offensively and defensively. They need to add some beef. Well, man, speaking of beef, I hope you go out and have yourselves a great New Year's Eve. Was it cabbage and was a coin in it? I forget. Boiled cabbage or something supposed to eat. But big thanks to everyone on the program today. Travis and Ricky B. And that's going to pretty much wrap it up for Indiana Sports Beat Radio's 2024 season. So excited and grateful to have you guys and looking forward to having you on the backside when we come back in the new year on Thursday. Go out, have a very safe New Year's Eve. Until Thursday, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.